Planning short term has helped me um, know what I don't want to do versus what I want to do. Sure, content is assumed as something everyone can do. But if everyone could do it, everyone would do it, right? If everyone could do it, everyone would do it. Then everyone's posts on LinkedIn would be getting the same amount of likes.
Welcome to the show, Disha. So excited. We are finally doing this on Women's Day weekend. A whole lot of interesting incidents kind of pushed our conversation by one day. But here we are. And looking forward to this. And what I'm so excited about our conversation today, Disha, is one, you're the first specialist on the show. So
Thank you.
I'm excited about doing like a deep dive down the rabbit hole into what it takes to build like a career in content marketing and climbing up the ladder over there. And I have so many, and I even said this to you before. Like I had so many questions which had come in through public demand, through popular demand, wherein these conversations which have happened on DM, and I was like, when I meet Disha, I'm going to ask her all of this. So in today's conversation, we are going to cover everything and more when it comes to content marketing careers. Welcome to the
Perfect.
show.
Perfect. Thank you. Perfect. Looking forward to it, Meeta. Happy Women's Weekend. I'm also extremely glad that we could do this weekend because I've had like a massive experience of working with very strong women in my career who have taught me whatever, like a lot of what I know right now in terms of not just content, being a content specialist, but also a lot of soft skills that we develop over a period of time. And This episode is also extremely special for me because I recently completed 15 years in content marketing, which is I didn't think about it. I had to like go back to my whole journey, and this recording is helping me relive my career in a way where I'm extremely appreciative. Um, yeah, extremely happy about where I am.
Firstly, congratulations on 15 years. It's a huge milestone, a
Yeah.
huge milestone. And you've seen so many evolutions and so many changes in
Yeah.
marketing in general and everything else. Wow.
Yes.
Let's dive right
Yes.
in. Uh, so Disha, let's start with your early life. What is it that you were doing as a child, as a person growing up, and what is it that led you into content marketing?
Sure. Um, in school, I think what always caught my fancy was English. It felt like a subject that I have always invested subconsciously effort and time in. And not just English as a language, but generally languages. I would get marks better in languages than I would get in maybe science or math. I wasn't very strong there. Going to the library, sneaking into the library, as a teenage, buying a lot of books from outside Andheri station. There was there were like these duplicate books sold, right, where you would exchange. Like once you're done, you'll go and buy another book. They'll sell it to you in a cheaper rate, etc. I have done a lot of that because we're not big readers in my family. Uh, but I wanted to sort of pick that as a habit because I've seen some of my cousins actively do that. They would actively, confidently talk in English. The command over at that point it was important, and I'm not trying to create a bias towards English, but I feel that it's so large. Like I think India is the second or the third largest country in the world that speaks English, uh, in terms of like English speaking population. And b- Having sort of that skill slowly started feeling a lot more important to have confident conversations with people, right? So language was my first point of attraction. Reading was my second sort of point of attraction. And then I have done BMS, which is also BBA in most places. And then I've done like a diploma in PR advertising. What I knew uh, from I think after I finished school was that I wanted to stick or work in the domain that I have studied for so that I can put to use what I have done, right? Versus figuring out later that I want to change my domain or I want to switch something. Because I have an elder brother and I've seen that particular journey happen for him where he started on in something else and then now he's working in something else, which is very different from what he's done with respect to his education. That felt like being unfair to myself because just the amount of effort that goes behind studying when you don't like studying is very different. Right? When you don't like when you're not really focused on getting good marks, um, right? And school as a younger child, everything is a lot more easily excused, honestly. Yeah. So for me, I feel that played a huge part in me starting working as a marketing executive. I was a marketing research executive with an organization called Pack Publishing. It's still there. It's a great place to work at least when I was there 15 years ago. It was great to work, like as a starting point, it was great. And then sticking to content marketing sort of came about very naturally for me because it has been a topic that I am comfortable and confident talking about without really getting complacent, without I don't lack the awareness of how easily evolving it is as a domain, right? There are so many easy influences within content marketing that it's maybe perceived as something as easy as knowing English and knowing how to write, but words with intent make a very big impact versus words which are just maybe written, right? So to work towards a place where you are creating a messaging or where you're creating a brand language with intent that is for your audience to understand what you're trying to sell. And this is just not professionally speaking, right? I try to maybe not always, but I try to be very aware of what I'm talking to people in, what I'm telling them. And I feel that that has sort of continued in my professional life as well. Yeah. So starting from Pact as a market research executive to now working with Price Labs, which is a B2B SaaS, a global brand. We have an excellent product. We have a team that's based out of, I think, 18 countries, the last statistic that I saw. I have people in my team based out of India, based out of Indonesia, based out of Egypt. And it's just been a great sort of experience working with people remotely and continuously sort of working towards building a content marketing base funnel, scaling it, working with different leadership in terms of people sitting out of different geographies, but also people coming with extremely diverse experiences. Vacation rental as an industry itself, I did not realize how big it is in this world before I joined Price Labs, right? And it's been great. It's been great. It's been more than 2 years, 3 months now. And I think I've had a swell time here.
Thanks for that extremely, I would say, interesting introduction. And I love chatty guests on podcast. I mean, podcasts should have chatty guests because then you get to talk so much, you get to go down into different rabbit holes, understand where they're coming from, and also have kind of a unstructured but structured conversation still. So I'm happy that you're a chatty person. We've had like so many great conversations, and I'm really excited to bring like a bunch of things from those conversations in this. A couple of points. And I think this
Yeah.
comes from the time when we first spoke, and this kind of stuck with me. So, one thing was you mentioned very explicitly, like when you were talking about why you got into, like how you got into marketing, why you got into marketing. And it was something around you're someone who prefers planning for short term, because that kind of helps you plan for long term better. And that's one thing which
Yeah.
you have kind of you've observed throughout your career so far. So I would just want to dive a little deeper into that thought with you first before we move on into your, like, professional life.
Yeah. 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 So I think planning short term is a lot more realistic simply because you can then have a little more control over because there's a locus of control, right? Like there is things that are in your control, but there are just so many variables that are absolutely out of your control. And this is something that I'm not going to deny that I learned this in my professional life is why I sort of feel that it's important to overall focus on that in all aspects of your life, right? That if you have like a short-term vision of what you want to do in the next 1 to 2 years and work towards that, then it helps you figure your way out long term. But it's important to have a long term plan. You might have a long term plan, which is maybe 10 years ahead, that I want to maybe retire at 50. Like that's maybe my long term plan. But planning for that is absolutely out of my control, right? Because there are just so many variables, not just professional. There is personal life to be considered. There's the economy to be considered. There is just your circle of people to be considered, just how much you want to grow to be considered. So I feel that planning short term has helped me um, know what I don't want to do versus what I want to do. Sure, sure, right? And that is also something that is maybe externally told to me in on occasions, right? Like because you're also living in a society, you're also living with people. So many a times you're told what to do. As an adult, you're told what to do. As a child, you're told what not to do. As an adult, you're constantly told what to do, right? So, what not to do becomes like a blur for you after a period of time. In order to like continue that thought process on what I don't want to do, working as a generalist marketer, for example, now I'll just move to the professional realm of it, this particular instance, right? That working towards being a generalist has, of course, like come to my mind. It's something that I've also realized might come across as a hindrance in my growth because maybe sticking to just one domain for X number of years, because what is out after a content lead, right? Titles might differ, but at the end of the day, that's what the role involves, right? Whether I'm a director, whether I'm an AVP, whether I'm a head of content, the role essentially remains the same. Building a team, scaling a team, building a function, scaling a function, right? Managing up, managing down, managing sideways. But what do I not want to do is my controllable here because I'm sticking to one domain. As a generalist, I feel that there's a lot more you are putting at stake because you cannot be everywhere all the time. To me, it personally felt like I might not be doing service to myself. And I have had the privilege of working with great managers who have invested time, effort, energy in helping me grow, be it productively, be it slightly strictly, anything, right? But I've had a great experience there. So what I wanted to sort of understand is, can I become a team lead or a manager that is easier to approach, that is more human in a way, right? And that's also someone who is looking out for your growth while also, of course, looking at my own growth. So, this particular, like boxing myself in a way or pigeonholing myself in a way to one particular type of vertical within the marketing realm helped me understand and planning short term to the question, right? Planning short term helped me sort of understand what all I don't want to be doing, which might seem like an injustice to myself, but also might be a lot to take care of, right? a lot of careers. Then there's just a lot of career dependency. And why be, yeah. So that was my thought process behind this.
That's true. And I think what I liked the most about this approach was it kind of helped you figure out what not to do. I think that's it's a huge strength to even have to just know that this is conclusively the kind of things I don't want to go after, don't want to pursue. I think
Correct.
I'm going to put my energy in it. So I think that's a good metric to have as well initially. Like, what are the things you don't want to do? Or what is it like planning for short term so that you're in a way kind of optimizing even for your long term growth?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think the part that you mentioned, so your beginnings kind of started through a market research company. Pact is a market research company, right? No, it's a publishing
No, it's an
company.
IT book publishing house. Yeah, it's an IT. Yeah.
So it started off there, and you were exposed to working on content, and again, it helped you bring that love for reading, your love for consuming content into mix as well.
Yes.
And
Yes.
like spending time here, I recall very clearly that you spent like the next few years at agencies. Like you have done like a very proper agency time. You have like a good exposure there. You've worked and serviced multiple clients over there. Let's talk about your experiences working with these agencies. What were like some challenges? And I think I'm sure that this will come across when we start talking about it, but there are some things that you kind of learned at agency which you still carry with you to this day. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So while working with Pact, which was now that I see it was my first B2B slash B2C brand. Yeah, because at that point we used to work with open source folks who were very, very interested in open source and asking them to review our books. Like we would reach out to them and ask them to review our books. Like that was the premise of my role to start with. Doing sort of that helped me understand that communication with intent is very, very important, right? Otherwise, why would someone reply to an email? And email marketing was just picking up them as well. It wasn't a norm, right? And getting someone to do something for you and then sort of cover that, I feel is a challenge that as your first job, you might you might learn a lot from, right? Then moving to the agency came in as I have done a diploma in advertising and PR with a college in Bombay, where we had a social media teacher who I absolutely, absolutely adore. Her name is Sneha Kataria. I have had a lot of learning from her. She is one of the strongest people I know. Right. So she sort of introduced us to the world of social media 15 years ago when things were just sort of picking pace. Right. Twitter had, I think, just launched. Facebook was big then. Yeah. And that's when I realized that maybe social media is the way to go about. So working with agencies was the easiest way in Bombay, for example, to work on social media brands or social media for brands. Um, Within the agency experience, I've had a chance to create content, which is creating copies, creating ideas, creating campaigns for different brands, ranging from like a television network to a financial institute to Ad Labs Imagica. Like we had a chance to launch the Ad Labs Imagica page for the agency that I was working with then, and they had taken the whole team to like a pre-opening sort of a thing that the whole park is not open yet, but whatever is open, you can like ride on those parts. And that was great. Right? That was great. And then I've had the chance to like act as an account manager as well, which is where my learning sort of grew exponentially because the model of an agency and a client has not really changed since. The expectation, the expectation of faster churnout has continued from then since then, and I think even before before I sort of ever thought of working, right, that the expectation that an agency can do a lot more in a shorter frame of time has continued. And I feel that frankly, I feel personally it has helped us shape our teams into like a machine, so to speak, where faster turnaround times become important to think of, because that leaves you more time to experiment. So templatizing as much as possible, ensuring that whatever brief is given, you have something ready in accordance to that. Um, has helped me scale like normal non-agency teams in a way, right? And I feel that is like the biggest learning for me. Working with agencies helped also see the perspective that I want to maybe experiment working with brands at that point, right? Because I realized that if I can do this much for these many brands and still do like a decent job, hopefully, imagine how much I can do if I'm working for a brand. So this is what I had to like tell myself when I started applying for, I want to move to the brand side. Right. An agency, there's no denying that working in an agency is extremely stressful. Right. Extremely stressful, especially when you are maybe starting your career and if that is not what you want to continue in. So again, the short term approach, where I realized that short term, this might work, but long term, this level of maybe stress might not be sustainable, especially for me. Right. So having that, I feel cognizance helped. But I could only get that when, like, after working with digital agencies for a certain amount of time. And there, I feel the leadership that I've worked with in agencies as well. I recently met one of the ex co-founders when I was in Bombay, and we were just reminiscing how far along we've come, right? Where you used to sit in the attic of a small building, like on a small space, yeah. And now, both of us are like just randomly talking about different things. We've come so far along. Um, but that particular experience had learn, understand whatever like I can do right now. So it was great to build a foundation in terms of how I want to function as an agency, maybe within a brand.
I think so many interesting and relatable stories in this. I think my favorite one was how the client treated you to Ad Labs Imagica.
In Magica.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Being able to try that out. I think I've never, when I worked at agency, I was never really fortunate enough to, get those samples and that kind of a thing. But I could see like other teams, they would get like fun stuff and all. Huh? So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's one of the perks of working at an agency, like, getting to try out those things a little early.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so many things that you mentioned right now that kind of impacted your career. To be very honest, I think I learned personally, like, and I think you also mentioned this when we first spoke, attention to detail is that one muscle that the way in which you'll develop it at an agency is like at another level because
Yeah. Yeah. No option, right?
exactly no
Yeah.
option. And the sheer volume of work that you're doing, I think to some extent, if you're doing it for a limited amount of time, especially good for your sanity. But
Yeah.
kind of skills that you learn there, like especially in terms of managing clients, managing client expectations, again,
Yeah.
handling the teams internally, like copy, studio.
Design, art, all of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
all those things, those are like so important when you even start working like in-house. So I think for me, that was like a major takeaway. It kind of is a very accelerated training grounds in terms of like
Yes.
ramping up very fast when you go work in house. So that kind
Yes.
of gives you like a really massive leg up. I think one part that again comes from our last conversation was you very specifically mentioned, and this is something as someone who's worked at an agency or anyone who has worked at an agency will realize the differences between like communication and comprehension to a huge extent. That's a very
Yeah.
agency problem in a lot of ways.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
would love to have the audience hear your take on it as well.
Sure. Sure. I feel that an agency helps you put that structure into place a lot more. Now having worked with like two sides of uh, the same coin, I would feel, right? Like their content marketing is the base, and then there is like the brand side, and then there's the agency, right? Right now, those are the only two models that exist, right? So communication in an agency became a lot more important as a brief, right? So the brief would be what we would expect the client to fill. The comprehension would be what we would comprehend and then give as an output, which is where attention to detail comes in, right? Because if I have not comprehended the expectation, I'm going through multiple rounds of reviews. I'm going through multiple changes, which is effectively not a good use of anyone's time. And you had to write at that point, like Facebook copies were a big deal. Twitter, like tweets and Twitter giveaways and all these campaigns were a big deal then, right? So you are doing a lot in a very short period of time. And all of us were working on at least three clients, at least, right? In fact, account managers would be handling 18, 20 clients in one go, right? Because that is how fast social media picked up pace. The same way you see generative AI picking up pace now, at that point, social media picked up pace that fast, which means you were always understaffed and always overworked in a way. But the learning curve was so high that you had to assure or you had to ensure that the brief, the questions that you're asking, that the communication coming from your client is what you're comprehending. And if not, you're asking questions, right? So if the comprehension exists, if the comprehension did not exist for us, that would lead for everyone to work on something at least thrice, which is where it became important to ask questions so that there is more and more comprehension, so that there is attention to detail constantly observed. Like I'll just add one more instance here, right? There's an agency that I worked with, which is now goes under a different name. At that point, it was a different name. It's called Fulcro now. I've not had touch with them ever since. But at that point, we had a team lead that would make us spend time writing MOMs. He would review the MOMs, and there would be a lot of formatting there. So there would be like underlining the main point. But at that point, it felt like a nightmare to us. Ki, yaar, MOM pe who wants to spend so much time? Right? Nobody's reading it. But we realized later how important it was for us to document each word that was spoken so that the client doesn't go back, so that the client doesn't forget, so that we haven't not comprehended the brief, so that we have understood the conversation, so that there is enough documentation for everyone to look at if they ever want to go back and understand why something was done in a certain way, how something was done in a certain way, and if there was success, this is what has led to. Right. So I feel that attention to detail go hand in hand with the communication and the comprehension part. Right. Those were, I feel, the foundation of that role, but also since at least has helped me understand that transparency is not as important as uh, clear communication in terms of what is asked and what is understood is. Right. You can be transparent, but that might not always be appreciated. Right. But if it is written communication and then written confirmation on the comprehension, it's just going to be better for everyone.
Agreed. Agreed. And I think these are like the very foundational skills when it comes to any kind of career, more so for marketing, because
Yeah.
in marketing as a profession, you have to be very detail oriented, and also you have to make sure that it's a very, how do I say, it's a very cross functional role as well. So you
Yeah.
have
Yeah. Yeah.
working with 10 teams at a time. How are you going to stay on top of it? There needs to be like some semblance of communication, some semblance of agreement. And again, this is where the whole
Yes.
communication and comprehension really kicks in. Even when you're
Yeah.
going and just doing like a briefing, say with your founder, say on maybe like the quarter's plans, you're having like a meeting,
Yeah.
you're understanding and also communicating why something is possible, not possible based on current set of resources and the skills that we have on the team is going to be so important.
Correct.
It's just a very
Correct.
foundational skill to have. So I think
Correct.
your agency kind of stint or the agency time
Fabulous.
that
Yeah.
at your career had very massive impact on the way in which you function right to this day. So then
Yeah.
kind of made a decision to move on to brand side, and your very
Yes.
first role was at Paytm in-house, and you landed that one in a very interesting way via Twitter.
Yeah.
Here's the story behind it.
Yeah. So I wanted to, like, at that point, I think social media, or the agency sort of model became exhausting in a way where I was spending 12, 13, 14 hours just working, doing the same things. And agency growth looks very different than brand growth, right? If, like how you're growing in an agency, at least at that point. I'm not making any assumptions for what is the world out there right now. But at that point, it became the repetition of work became extremely mundane, and like it would curb your creativity because if the agency realizes that you are better with writing financial content, then you're giving financial clients. If you're better with writing B2C content, you're giving B2C clients, and so on and so forth, because that's your niche, that's your area of expertise. But there's no growth there. You're just doing maybe the execution. But at the junior level, you might also want to continue the execution. The I would use the Hindi word "kida" to grow was important for me professionally, and I realized that I enjoyed working a lot more than I enjoyed studying. Okay, that putting my learning practical, my theory into practical like know-how, that helped me know what I want to do, not do, learn, grow, upskill, all of that a lot more for me. So moving to the brand side seemed like a natural next step for me because I have done agency work. Now I want to focus on the part where I'm good at, which is maybe social media at that point. And social media at that point was Facebook and Twitter. Instagram wasn't that big. LinkedIn wasn't as big, from what I remember, in terms of jobs. There was Naukri, there was Monster. These places helped you, or these websites helped you get jobs. But LinkedIn jobs wasn't a big deal then, right? So without my then employer knowing that I'm looking out for jobs, I had tweeted that if someone knows of roles opened in Bombay, Bangalore, Pune, like these are 3, 4 cities that I had listed out, and to like let me know. Uh, so people would retweet, and at that point, I feel that Bombay Twitter was a big deal. So a huge community was built, and all of us were in some or the other way related to different agencies that we were working with. There would be tweet ups, there would be meetups that happened. So conversation, social samosa was a big deal then. It still is, but social samosa was a very big deal then. So at that point, having those discussions that hey, I'm looking for a role, and then having the same people follow you on Twitter, and you follow them. That particular barter helped retweet and get to a point where um, someone from someone who knew that there is an opening in Paytm sort of DM and said that if you want to apply for this role, they have an opening. It took around 2.5 months of conversations, interviews, because we had to do video calling. Video calling wasn't a big deal then. In-person interviews were, at least that I knew of. So it took like a good 2.5 months of coordination, knowing each other, and getting the role. Paytm Bangalore as a team was just being built. It existed as 197, which is the parent company. So they had that particular part of the organization going quite strongly. But opening Paytm as a product, and at that point, Paytm was different. Like, so what we were doing was not what the core Paytm product was doing. We were figuring out businesses that can start from Bangalore. So we did, like, for a short time, we did like a secondhand store sort of a thing. So we would try building apps for whatever the research sort of showed us, and then maybe taking it to the market, figuring out a PMF, taking it to the market, and then seeing how it sort of works. And I used to take care of the communication and the social media marketing for those sort of for those pieces. It was a short stint, but again, a great team of just absolutely learning. And I did not work with a lot of engineers before this. An agency doesn't let you work with a lot of tech, a lot of product then, right? So this thing helped in seeing a very different side of how products are built. So we had a product manager, we had a project manager, we had marketing communications. We used to work with the team based out of Noida in terms of social media, coordinating with them, handling different pages here, figuring out a lot of app content, right? A lot of ORM, online reputation management wasn't something that you did internally in house. You used to outsource that also to an agency. What we tried doing at that point was moving it in house. And yeah, yeah. So which is what sort of helped. No, okay, these aspects also need to be considered. You're not just putting out a post. There's not just a typo. Because as a product, you would get, hey, mera recharge nahi hua hai. The reply would be, hey, my recharge failed. Hey, you've taken my money. Hey, this has happened. Like there would be relatives of mine who would call me and complain about Paytm where I had nothing to do with it. Right. So that like learning, I feel all of this sort of helps learn what you want to do at your work, how you want to communicate outside your job as well. So getting that job from Twitter was, I think, great. And since then, I've subconsciously always relied on Twitter. Um, so if I want to look for a role change, I will first think of Twitter and not instinctively go for LinkedIn, even now, because I know that, yeah, because I know that the seriousness of someone looking for a role comes out a lot more on Twitter, which is not a platform for the same reason. On LinkedIn, it's an expected behavior. On Twitter, it's not expected behavior. It is either you are reaching a point where you are trusting a network which you don't know, or it's a point of desperation. It could be either or, right? Okay, I have run out of all my avenues, is why I'm relying on Twitter. No harm, right? Community building happens a lot more on Twitter than it does on LinkedIn for me, right? So I feel that part has stayed, and this getting this role was, I think, one of the top pieces that have happened in my life.
It's a very interesting way
And
to
Bangalore,
explore. You
yeah,
moved.
and Bangalore,
Actually,
the IT hub, yeah, yeah,
again, doing a virtual interview at that point of time, it was so rare.
yeah, yeah,
I was just thinking how much our behavior has changed, even in terms of interviewing, job searching. I actually never thought of, looking at Twitter or X right now in terms of, as a very serious place to even land like new role. I think I need to think of it as well.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
actually a
It's
good
great.
place.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And all you have to do is ask people to retweet.
That was an extremely interesting way to land a role and to also think about, how to approach a job search in a very different way. And also the way it was a very different experience for you altogether. Your first brand role, like your first
Yeah,
house role, moving on from an agency and moving to a new city altogether, like setting up
yes,
new base, also working with
yes,
product teams, like the way, like you mentioned very aptly, agencies work in a different fashion and in-house roles work in such a different fashion. And
correct.
Paytm was just the beginning of your journey. I think from then on, you have worked at so many wonderful places and more notably also like different industries and different setups. So you worked at ClearTrip,
Yeah,
Belong, Veerloop, Gupshup, and right now currently Price Labs.
Type
Let's
labs.
talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about what have been some of the challenges and rewards of working in these different setups, especially as a content marketer, and also like with each role you have successively like gone one step up the ladder. So how has that journey looked like?
Great. So, like, to sum it up, and I'm not like, I understand that we might be having this conversation, and a lot of what I'm saying is hindsight, right? But I feel that even when making these decisions, even when taking the decision of moving jobs or moving roles, there was a lot of focusing on what do you want to do next, but what definitely you don't want to do next, right? So going back to an agency was a definite no-no in a way, right? Because I knew that maybe this is not what I'm maybe cut out to do. But working with the same industry was also a no, right? So the challenge, this might come across as a challenge as well, because same that you, if you have mastered or if you have worked in a certain industry, you want to continue doing that. But for me, it became more of a role definition, right? That I want to do content marketing. It doesn't matter who or what I'm doing content marketing for. I can obviously apply or choose to apply where I'm not comfortable, choose not to apply where I'm not comfortable. Like if I'm not comfortable with maybe financial institutes, I know for a fact that I'm never going to apply there, right? Um, if I do apply, then I will want to completely 100% give my all there as much as possible, which is what the industry moving sort of gives you as an advantage. So working with ClearTrip, which is travel tech, working with Belong, which was HR tech, working with Whirloop and Gupshup, which are again more WhatsApp tech. They're more chatbot, they're automation, they're communication. And then now working with TriSAP, which is a revenue management for vacation rentals, right? A different ballgame altogether. But I feel that gathering this experience while not changing the underlying base of content marketing has helped overcome some challenges a lot easier that I hear from my peers, right? In terms of यार इंडस्ट्री चेंज नहीं कर पा रहे हम या फिर we are not able to scale or moving across or going up the ladder also might you I felt that if I continue in the same sort of domain, um I might limit my growth in a way where I'm assumed as an expert only in that, right? An execution expert maybe, and I see there, right? And this is what I'm speaking from hindsight. Like this is my hindsight thought process, where I feel that if I had stuck to the same domain or similar domains, I would have had a slower growth. But this is what I have sort of worked on. The second part of this is, and something that worked for me, like the challenge is like we'll just focus on the challenges to start with. Challenge, I feel the challenge was also moving domains because trust building becomes tough, right? When you're interviewing for another role, um, it's always a hey, you've jumped jobs every year, right? And I understand that it might come across poorly on my resume, but it's not by choice. It's not by my choice. It's important that the organization help me grow just as much as I come with the experience of, right? And wherever the organizations have invested in me, um, I have stayed back, right? Be it 2 years, 3 years, and that's the shelf life. The shelf life of a marketer within the Indian ecosystem, from what I understand, is maybe 2 years, right? And at least that's what I see of most of my peers. Not all of them. Of course, there are people who are comfortable staying and have grown substantially in the same organization by staying there for 5, 6, 7 years as well. But that's exactly it, right? That the organization has also invested in that person's individual growth. It could be L&D, it could be going for events, it could be meeting, it could be networking. But all of these are also facilitated by the brand that you're working for. And that's exactly what was important as a challenge. I feel that um, talking to the brands or talking to the non-marketing founders or non-marketing folks within the organization um, used to, or maybe still is, in a way, a step more than what I would want to enjoy taking in that conversation, right? Because content is assumed as something everyone can do. But if everyone could do it, everyone would do it, right? If everyone could do it, everyone would do it. Then everyone's posts on LinkedIn would be getting the same amount of likes, right? If everyone was a content marketer, everyone's blogs that they are putting out, or everyone's um, whatever sort of medium you're putting out, that would get the same amount of leverage if everyone was able to do it well, right? But unfortunately, that's just not true. Creating sort of an expertise as much as required becomes important, whether you're an engineer, whether you're a product designer, whether you're a product manager, whether you're a content marketer, or whether you're a product marketer. It just, or whether you're a founder, like building your expertise as a founder also becomes important. So I feel that that particular part was the only challenge that I would want to bring up more than anything. But more than that, like focusing only on the good parts, I feel what I mentioned before, that I've had great managers, whether I've been in the company for a year, or whether I've been there for more than that time, or like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I've realized that the trust that you can build managing up, managing sideways, and managing down is absolutely unbeatable, right? And there are, of course, nuances of the role that you have to keep in touch with, which is knowing when to hire, knowing when to upskill, knowing when to invest in your L&D, knowing when to invest in your team's growth, constant feedback loops, the whole communication to comprehension part there as well. Abiding by that is just sort of going to accelerate your growth. So if there are marketers here who are looking for moving from IC roles or execution for focus roles to maybe managing roles, it's important to zoom out of the execution. And that can only be done by having honest conversation with who you're working with or who you're reporting to, right? But it's also important that the person you're reporting to come with the education that you want them to come with. If not, the education, the responsibility of education is on both parties in a way. More so on, more so on maybe someone letting me know, hey, I might not know about something, so that I can look into that, right? So if I'm working with non-marketing folks, I want to ensure that firstly, I am telling them that, hey, you might be missing this piece. And then it's, of course, on them. Then it's outside my locus of control, right? That I don't know what they're going to be picking up from here. And then if we're on the same page, then it naturally leads to growth. Yeah.
I think so many salient points in this when it comes to working across industries, working across different setups. Uh, and I have like a follow-up question here, okay? Like one, you talked about the whole responsibility of growth or even education lying on both parties to some extent. And we spoke at length about this. And I think whenever I speak with any marketer, we always speak at length about this. But how do you manage like founder expectations? Because I believe that's a biggest challenge when it comes to anyone who's in a marketing, content marketing role. Like, how do you set up very realistic expectations, have a proper conversation with the founding team, basis like where the team is at, that this is what you can expect from us, this is what we can drive, this is what we can do. So how do you approach that process? And the place where I'm coming from with this question is also a lot of content marketers are ICs. They don't really have like a senior marketer there who can guide them. Okay, like they're literally forging their journey by their lone selves. They don't know like how to approach these conversations. Maybe they're a little early in their career. So
Yeah.
what kind of
Yeah.
advice and tips you would give them when approaching this particular problem?
Cool. So when we're talking about just at an IC level, right? I feel it's important to acknowledge as leadership as well as at that scale that the role from an IC is not at all that the leadership can have from like a managerial role, right? So again, this is my JD and this is what I'm going to be able to do. Conversation becomes important when you're doing like yearly reviews or when you're doing one-on-ones. And I feel that one-on-ones are the most important part of your journey in any organization. whether they are happening monthly, bi-weekly or weekly. The idea is to communicate whatever you want to without letting judgment, emotion, sort of guide those conversations, and only focusing on where you want to be at, where you want your team to be at. Would be like a piece of advice, so to speak. I don't think I have enough experience to give advice because everyone's journeys are just so different. But speaking just from my journey, I've realized that um, there are there because it's a two-way street. My job is to tell someone that, hey, I'm going to try and educate you, but self-awareness sort of ensures that the other party is also thinking about getting educated, right? If that piece is the missing, if the self-awareness is missing, then no amount of conversations will be helpful. So setting that as an expectation right off the bat would would be something that I feel is important. Over a period of time, I've of course started also thinking about how I want to communicate or how I want to convey something without it having a lot of my bias to it, without it having a lot of non-productive sort of discussions around it. So there are several sort of tests that you end up taking. The Gallup, for example, right? The Gallup test. There are several sort of constantly thinking about how I want to be a better manager is what I have worked on. Similarly, I feel that anyone who is looking to move from IC to like a team lead or a team manager role, it's important to think about yourself as a manager. If you bring that mind shift for yourself, and your conversations will automatically change. When you are working as, in your mind, when you're working as an IC, you're only looking at one problem statement, which is given to you. At an execution level, that's what you're expected to do. But when you're thinking about managing, be it one person, be it yourself, so that you're not, told what to do. Managing yourself also means that you're taking on more than what you are asked to, in a way, right? Because then you effectively start taking on more conversations. So you start talking to different teams, you start being more curious, you start understanding how something works a lot more. And like when you're in an office setting, and most of my journey has been non-remote. So going up to someone's desk and asking them, hey, can you tell me how this works? I feel that helped, or that helps know how to scale through the ladder a little more easier, right? Versus staying in that sort of mindset that if I'm an IC, I want to be promoted. Um, that's a two-way conversation. Like I just feel that it's a two-way conversation. Someone is only interested in your, like I tell my team this, and I have always maintained this, is that I can only be as invested in your growth as much as you are. Right? If you want to grow to a certain level, figure out what your next title should be. Let's look at what that particular job description ideally involves, right? And whatever is missing from your role right now, to work towards that is what we work towards, which might be putting yourself in some discomfort, which might be you doing something a little more with attention, right? And then you might compromise on your day to day, but your day to day has to become so second nature that you have enough time to take up something else, right? So that time management sort of becomes. So I feel that soft skills will help grow faster than like the main hard skills that are required for the role itself, because those will be told to you irrespective. Your job will be told to you when you're moving from something to something, be it orgs or be it roles. You will be told what you have to work in or as. But soft skills is a very intrinsic thing. Yeah.
I know it sounds extremely trite to say this, like soft skills is what will take you ahead in career, but there is no, I mean, you can't deny that fact. It's
Yeah.
it's just there. It exists. You can't really, run away from it. So thanks. That
Yeah.
that was a very extremely useful information to kind of have. I think next thing that I want to understand is so you've actually experienced content marketing at different types of setups. Like you have worked at startups like Belong. I think even when you
Yeah.
started at Paytm, it was a proper startup. It was
So,
fairly
yeah.
small.
Yeah.
And
Paytm was a startup. Yeah.
yeah, and right now you're at Price Labs, you're a very established company and your team itself is fairly big. I think you have like 12 to 15 member team.
We're 14 people now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a big team and this is just the content marketing team. There would be like a product marketing team, there would be different teams. Basically the setup is matured, it is more established. So having seen
Yes.
content marketing at all these places, would love to have like a little bit of a segue into how does content marketing look at different setups, and second, how do you believe based on your experiences should content marketing teams also be structured, like in this particular space?
Yeah. So, I'll go a little, I'll go a little back where I feel that marketing should be thought of. And now, having worked with enough brands and seen the ecosystem enough to sort of know what we might not be doing as an industry itself, is that figuring out or building a marketing funnel or marketing hiring should be just as important as product and engineering. Like I feel that's a hill that I'm maybe going to die on, right? Where I feel that a lot of companies are maybe not actively thinking about building marketing as a function at the same time that they're figuring out a PMS. And marketing doesn't have to be an elaborate function, but it also doesn't have to be one content writer. That's not marketing. You're not marketing your product by hiring one junior writer, because that junior writer is not coming with the experience that you want them to scale at. When it comes to sort of already talking about or already getting people to talk about your brand in a way, right? So I think what differs in a startup versus in like a bigger setup is this importance of knowing how crucial a role marketing plays in an organization's growth, which is maybe not clearly visible to the world in terms of metrics or in terms of downloads or in terms of product usage. But awareness is such a big part of any product now, especially when everything is easily replicable and everything is easily a competition. It becomes so much more important to think about creating a marketing funnel, maybe hiring a head of marketing or maybe hiring someone at a senior marketing role. It could be a generalist marketer as well, right? Who knows what to get done to start with. And then slowly sort of building that. Enterprises have already thought of this, right? Which is where they sort of first build the function, then they let the functional heads build out the ancillary teams, so to speak. So I feel that part has, I've seen that in my career as well, right? So wherever I have worked at, like whichever startup I have worked with, there would be doing more than what you have sort of thought about, because there is one person taking care of maybe two things. Versus when you sort of work towards being a specialist, or you work towards building a team of specialists. You only think about what you want to really do in your role. So I feel that at Price Lab that it it became important for us to build specialists who are also comfortable doing what they want to do, but also about thinking what the organization or the brand sort of requires, right? Requires to create awareness, requires to drive adoption, requires to create a word of mouth wherever required, right? And today, versus like maybe when I was with ClearTrip or Belong, today there exist a lot more channels, be it distribution, be it creation. there exist a lot more channels for you to communicate about your brand. People are also consuming that much content is why there exist so many channels, right? So finding out where your audience is, who your audience is, of course, where your audience is, and then talking to them there is what becomes more of a content marketing function responsibility than creating resources in a certain way, right? We also think of content marketing as written communication, but that's maybe not 100% accurate, because any sort of word that you put out, be it spoken, be it written, um, be it like discussed, is you talking about your brand, right? Be it, and this starts from top down. This is more top down than bottom up, right? So I feel that part is what I have seen as grow, be it my growth, be it the organizational growth, and that's been a good journey. Yeah.
I think very interesting to even understand the kind of things involved when it comes to like building a function, and also how to approach building a function. I think more established companies, they kind of have it pat down because I mean they have
Yeah.
done it over the past
Yeah.
few years, so they
Yeah.
know like how exactly to approach that process. But yeah, with startups, I think it definitely changes. I I think it also
Yes.
comes down to the founder themselves, right? The founding team. Not everyone is going to be as focused on marketing like right off the bat. Ideally, they should,
Yeah.
but again,
Yes.
depends on the product, depends on the industry, depends on the founders themselves. Like what
Correct.
space are they
Correct.
coming from? Maybe second time, third time founders, they have it figured out a little differently,
Yes.
but first time
Yes.
founders function in a very different fashion.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
I think those insights were extremely useful to understand when it comes to how content teams should, in general, be structured, regardless of the setup. Uh, I think one thing I'm not sure we covered it really well, but overall, if you were to explain it to me as someone who's also worked in different industries, but if I were to understand the differences between how content marketing looked at something like ClearTrip versus something like Belong versus something like Price Labs, what are the differences in content marketing itself? Like maybe more channels, maybe absolutely more
Yes.
resources for sure. But then what are the differences like? Because I think it would be
So
useful to understand that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So travel tech is different because you want to be covering all facets in terms of individually looking at the whole, individually looking at each offering, right? So hotels would be different, flights would be different. Something else that ClearTrip is doing is different. So at that point, we used to work in something called ClearTrip Local, which was local experiences that you can experience in and around your city. So for us at that point, we were more interested in how many experiences we were getting booked. So what it looked like was, yeah, how many experiences we got. So sales would go and get experiences for us, figuring it out in and around the city. And it was a pretty kick-ass product at that point, where you could toggle between the travel and the local part of ClearTrip, right? And unfortunately, I don't think that particular thing exists anymore. Um, but at that point, we used to take care of the merchandising bit, like content marketing. Used to take care of how you're consuming a listing, how you are looking at a listing getting booked. What are the visual references you're giving, right? So it was a small team of 4 or 5 of us working with different parts of the team itself. Like we would work with product, we would work with sales, we would work with CS, and then we would like finally all report to the leadership and talk about like how to get the experiences booked in a way, right? That was our motive. Versus like in Belong, we had a very small content marketing team. We were creating content for internally, we had a very small marketing team, but externally, like I used to work with freelancers who were helping us, with what the product offering was at that point. Not going into a lot of details, Yeah, not going into a lot of details, but we wanted to ensure that the turnaround time for what we are sort of promising the clients was a lot faster than what I had sort of seen when I joined. So at that point, we were like when I joined, we were doing like a 48-hour to 72-hour TAT was what we were looking at when we were working with clients. By the time like I left, we were doing 30 minutes. So the output was just a lot more templatized. The output was also a lot more widened in terms of the external team that we were working with. So relying the trust factor that we discussed, right, became very important for us at Belong. So there was like an internal team of writers who would first templatize everything and then in a way work with the freelancers on getting all of those templates figured out. So that is what it looked like there. We had another brand marketing team as well who was taking care of content for the career branding bit where Mohita used to work. So Mohita would take care of that part of the room. Yeah, in a way, right? Versus Price Labs, I feel Price Labs is a lot more mature in terms of what we're looking at as a team. So we do have different facets, but the team here looks extremely specialist in a way where we have specialized content writers, we have specialized social media folks, we have SEO, we have design, we have product marketers, we have paid ops, we have web ops. We want to ensure that we are sort of getting into people who come with the relevant experience or are ready to build that experience. Because that just means that you're giving a lot more seriousness in a way to what your audience is really looking to do, read, understand more about the organization, the product, etc. Right. So that part has sort of evolved from Cleartrip, where one person would be doing more than one thing, to hear one person doing just one thing that they're really good at or they want to build an expertise in. And it's a fairly large team. Marketing, I think now we have around 30-ish folks. When I joined, we were maybe 7 or 8 people. So yeah, we've evolved a lot. Yeah.
I think it's very interesting to understand how the whole situation looks like content marketing wise in different setups. And these are three very wildly different setups.
Industries.
Yeah, and industries as well. So it's very useful and helpful to understand that.